Hello, and thank you for joining our presentation today. My name is Rod Cunningham, 29-year retired Air Force veteran, author of 2 books on mental health, motivational speaker, as well as a life coach. And I want to thank you for joining us today. So at this time, we're going to go ahead and get started with our presentation. So the name of our presentation today is Climb, It's Okay Not to Be Okay. So again, my name is Rod Cunningham. I am the CEO of Chief Empowerment Network. This is when I was in the military. So the first thing I like to do whenever I do a presentation is I like to find out, what do we have in common with each other? Many times when we think about having things in common, we look to the exterior. But what I want to challenge you to do today is to look at the heart of a person. And so I want to find out what we have in common at the heart level. So if everyone would, if you would please stand. And if you're watching by video, please raise your hand. And so I'm going to throw, at this time, I'm going to throw 4 rocks. If these rocks hit you, I want you to sit down and stay down and look around and see who you also have that in common with. So the first rock, the first virtual rock that I'm going to throw is rock number 1 is, if your biological parents ever separated or divorced at any time in your life, or they were never married, please have a seat. This is what parental abandonment looks like. The second rock I'm going to throw is a rock of loss. If someone passed away who you truly love, a child, a parent, a grandparent, an aunt or uncle, a sibling, a best friend, mentor, you've had an abortion, or a family pet has passed away, or you have a parent with a terminal illness, I want you to go ahead and have a seat as well. And then look around to see who you have that in common with at the heart level. This is what loss looks like. The gentleman in the top left picture is burying his wife. The gentleman behind him is burying his mother. If you look at the lower picture down at the bottom on the right, the gentleman there is burying his father. What happens with those emotions 30 days from now? 1 year later, 5 years later? Do you think they just go away, or are they still inside of a person's body, pretty much controlling their emotions, if you will? Rock number 3, we call this one trauma. If you've ever been touched inappropriately, if you've ever been in a bad car accident, if you've ever seen your father strike your mother, if you've seen the police mishandle anyone in your family, we consider that trauma. And trauma has many other forms as well. If you've experienced trauma, go ahead and have a seat. This is what trauma looks like. Now, normally, 98% of my audiences are seated at this time. I recently was in an audience where we had about 80 youth in the inner cities of St. Petersburg. And when I threw the first rock of parental abandonment, everyone was seated. It was the first time that everyone had been seated off the first rock. Rock number 4, sit down if you were ever bullied, constantly ridiculed by a partner, by a sibling. If you experienced a bad breakup, maybe you were 16 and you were dating someone 16 and you both gave your heart to one another and your parents called it puppy love, but your heart felt that it was very real, only to find out that 6 months later, not only is the relationship broken, or that heart connection broken, but they're going out with your best friend. These are this is that feeling of rejection. This is what rejection looks like. This is what rejection looks like. Now, the 4 rocks I just gave you, I call those the 4 areas that cause emotional pain or emotional decline. Parental abandonment, loss of a loved one, trauma, and rejection. Now, there's a warning at the bottom here that says, unresolved, any one of these areas can lead to a lifetime of high stress, anger, sadness, anxiety, or depression. See, we all carry an emotional bucket. We all carry this emotional bucket with us everywhere that we go. And as we experience these 4 areas that cause emotional decline, it actually fills our bucket. For instance, age 7, your parents divorced, your bucket began to fill up. Age 12, your grandmother died, or a friend got killed in a car accident. Your bucket began to fill up even more. Age 13, you get in a bad car accident. By age 16, you're experiencing that bad breakup or that heartbreak. And now your bucket is full at 16 and you have no idea. Personally, my bucket was full at 10 years old. And so what I started to do was look for things to comfort me that were not necessarily good for me. So when your bucket is full, it affects your most important relationships. You know, your relationships with your children, your significant other, your parents, your employer, as well as your friends. It begin to bleed into one another when that bucket is full. And so we have to be careful not to bleed on people who never cut us in the first place. Now, when your bucket is full, and my bucket was full at 10 years old. I didn't do anything about it until I was 46 after my mom passed. So when my mom passed, that was the one more thing in my life. That was the brick that came into my already full bucket and splashed my emotions all over everyone. And when it splashed all over everyone, I began to have suicidal ideation. I started to think, why am I here? My father died before I was born. My mom is gone. Why am I here? And it didn't matter how much money I had in the bank, how many people loved me. It was pure grief that was laid on top of a layer of just trauma after trauma. And so I'm going to teach you what to do about it, because I didn't know what to do at the time, but now I do. And that's what my whole program is built from. And so I'm going to teach you what to do to empty that bucket, because we don't want the brick of life that is ahead of us to come into our bucket and splash our emotions everywhere. We want to drain that bucket as quickly as possible. So when we go through life and a brick comes into our lives, that brick just hits the bottom of an empty bucket and it doesn't splash all of our emotions all over the place. So I'm going to teach you the 5 steps to emotional wellness. So I call it the 5 emotional wellness spigots. So the big domino here is high stress. When we're highly stressed, we make poor or negative or irrational decisions. So what do you do when you're highly stressed that you're not proud of? What do you do when you're highly stressed? Now, when I'm talking to young people, they never really want to tell what they do when they're highly stressed. Someone tells me that they smoke, or they even smoke marijuana, that they may drink. But when I ask them, what does your parents do when they're highly stressed? Oh boy, here comes the list. And here's the list of what I normally hear. Yell, scream, and curse, drink alcohol, go to the club or casino, hit people, smoke marijuana, go shopping, eat junk food, gossip, play video games, listen to music, sometimes explicit music, go to sleep, which we call depression, cry or isolate yourself, call or hang out with friends, wind down with your spouse or significant other, even steal or cheat on your spouse. What many people don't know is that cheating on your spouse is actually a mental health condition, a mental health situation, right? They're looking for comfort in all of the wrong places because of their mental health. And maybe they have gotten frustrated with telling their spouse or significant other about their frustrations. And maybe that person, doesn't want to hear it at the time. So they find someone else who will listen to them. And that ends up into a bad situation. But if we're healthy, if we drain our bucket, we will have no need to seek that kind of comfort from someone else. We can get it from our spouse. So the idea here is low stress, because when we lower our stress, we make positive, good, and rational decisions. Now, how do we do it? It's actually a mindset shift. And this is how we want to wake up every day. We want to have a strong mindset every single day. Now, there are 3 ways to positively, temporarily interrupt negative thoughts. Now, we can do breathing exercises, pattern interruptions, or self-care. So let's go ahead and try the breathing exercise. So I want everyone to close your eyes. I'm watching you. Close those eyes. I want you to take 3 deep breaths. Okay, take the first breath. Breathe in. Hold it, hold it, hold it. Breathe out. Second one, breathe in. Hold it, hold it, hold it. Breathe out. Last one, breathe in. Hold it, hold it, hold it, hold it, hold it. Breathe out. Now put your hand on your chest and listen to your heartbeat. Now open your eyes. Now, whatever you were thinking about, you just cleared your head. If you're taking an exam, a major exam, and you have anxiety, you can do this exercise and that anxiety will go away. Then you can take that test. If you were thinking negative thoughts, you can do those breathing exercises and the negative thought goes away. Now you can focus again. Now, the second one is pattern interruption. Pattern interruption is like, for me, it's me being silly. I like this song called Push It by Salt and Pepper, but I changed the word to switch it. I say, switch it, switch it, switch it real good. So that's what I do, silly things, so that I can switch the thought that's currently in my mind, because the thought is not serving me at the time. When we have these negative thoughts, when we're triggered based on what we see, hear, touch, smell, taste, and we're triggered to something in the past, what happens is we get into that negative space, and the next person that says good morning or good afternoon or hello, they end up getting it from us. They end up getting that wrath from us because we've been triggered into that deep thought. But if we can do a pattern interruption, that will go away. And the last one is self-care. Many of us have heard of self-care, and self-care is very, very important. And so what we teach here is that self-care should be done every day. Whatever that is that builds your spirit, builds your energy, whether you're taking a walk around your neighborhood or run or going out and doing some gardening, catching a good swim, walking the dog or the cat every morning, doing meditation, getting a massage, or listening to your favorite song. Whatever that is for you that lifts your energy and lifts your spirit, you should do it every day and do it in the morning so that it can help you manage your day with a high frequency of a day. And we'll talk about high frequency a little bit later. So there are 5 consistent steps to emotional wellness. And these are the 5 spigots that I spoke about in that bucket. And so we're going to go over those right now. Step number 1 is spirituality. Spirituality is the relationship, that one-on-one relationship that you have with your God. We're talking about spirituality, where it's a one-on-one relationship. Spirituality is a quality of being concerned with the human spirit or soul, as opposed to material or physical things. We must return to the center of who we are, that is good. When you think about joy and you think about happiness, happiness means that something has to be happening. I'm happy because you bought me a new car. I'm happy because you washed the dishes. I'm happy because you took me to the movies. But joy is something internal that you get from your God. And if God gave you the joy, then no one can take your joy. And that's why joy is so important. Otherwise, we're waiting on other people to continually make us happy for us to have a good day. And I wouldn't give that kind of control to anyone. Step number 2 is forgiveness. We've got to forgive everybody that's ever hurt us in our entire lives. Normally, the things that we carry with us are the things we can't control. And we can't control other people hurting us. And so it's important that if they do, or when they do, we have to forgive them. We have to forgive the people who left us. So you left me. You hurt me. Why would you leave me? Why would you lie on me? Why would you fire me? Why would you tell me that I was never going to be anything? Why would you do something to me? It hurts. And so now we have to forgive them so that we don't continue to be their victim 10, 20, 30, 40 years later. We're still holding on to something someone said when we were 12. We have to forgive them. And remember, forgiveness is not for the person that hurt you. Forgiveness is for you. Those people have gone on with their lives, and you're still holding on to the bitterness of what they said or did to you. So we have to forgive them. And I want you to think about it this way as well. When people hurt us, or, well, let me say it this way. Our brains are constantly trying to gain understanding from something. I don't understand why you would do that. And so because I don't understand, the door in my head remains open. Once I get clear understanding, I close the door and I move on. And so for many times, we will never get full understanding. So we could have literally 30, 40, 50 doors open in our brains, and we can be triggered after trigger after trigger. Smell, touch, taste. You can mention someone's name. Oh yeah, I remember him. He did this to me back in 1957. And I don't want to have anything to do with it. And so we have to close those doors and forgive those people. And the only way to close all 50 doors at the same time is to forgive everything and learn something, because life is a matter of learning. Life teaches us something. So if we can get the learning from those things that have happened to us in the past, then we can forgive them and we can move on and say, hey, I'm better today than I was back then. So you thank them for the lesson that they gave you. And this is what forgiveness looks like. Step number 3 is counseling. We can't continue to hold all of this stuff inside of us. And we should not expect our spouses, our significant others, our parents, our children, our friends to be our counselors. They should be your friends, your family, and not your counselors. Go get you a real counselor who can truly help you with how you're thinking about a situation and help you figure out those learnings in that situation. So go ahead and get the counseling and therapy you need so that you can be the best person that you can be for all of your friendship, all of your relationships. And this is what counseling looks like. Now, step number 4, or spigot number 4, is journaling or art. Pressure make a pipe burst. And so we can't keep holding things in. And I know, grandma said, shh, what goes on in the house stays in the house. Don't write anything down. No one will have proof if you don't write it down. Don't fall for it. You have to get it out. You cannot keep all of that stuff in. When you keep things in, it puts your body in dis-ease. And it may take 20 or 30 years for that dis-ease to show up with high blood pressure, fibromyalgia, lupus, and things of that nature, blindness. All of these things are stress-related diseases. And if you keep all of that in your body, those diseases will show up at some point in your life. So let's get it out. Let's journal, write a book, write a movie, write a poem, write a song, or draw and paint. So if you're an artist, draw your life, draw a picture that depicts your life. And then the last step, number 5, the last spigot is purpose. Purpose has nothing to do with you and everything to do with why is someone else's life better because you live. So where can we find that purpose? We can start volunteering. We can work and tutor kids. We can work with seniors. We can coach youth sports. We can feed the homeless. Whatever you do for a living, you can start to help other people get jobs there, or help people with their resumes, or, or things of that nature. So there are things that you can do to find purpose in your life, which again is going to begin to empty your emotional bucket. All right, so now you see that I just told you the 5 steps to emotional wellness: spirituality, forgiveness, counseling, journaling or art, and purpose. So in this slide, it really just shows us that it shows us how the 4 areas that cause emotional pain and the 5 steps to emotional wellness and how they are related. So if something happens to you on the left side, then you should go through all 5 steps once again. Recently, I lost a good friend of mine. Actually, I lost a good friend of mine back in January, doctor here, professor here in the Tampa Bay area. And he passed away, and he and I talked twice a week. It was a major loss for me. And the next day after he passed away on a Monday night. On Tuesday morning, I was calling the VA and asking for therapy. And so I did about 2 sessions of therapy with her, and she really helped me to process loss and things of that nature. And so it was very, very helpful. Otherwise, I would find myself sitting on the couch with a blue blanket on, with my left hand in the potato chips and my right hand with the remote control. Now, I run a business, and so that is not good use of my time to grieve like that. So I like to get the help as soon as possible so I don't fall into a state of depression. And maybe your left hand is not in potato chips. Maybe your left hand is in ice cream. Maybe it is in cognac, however you say it. I'm not a drinker. I think y'all call it cognac. Maybe it is in some yak, if you will. Maybe it is maybe your left hand is in Dillard's, right? You're buying stuff, Ron. You're being what they call it, retail therapy, where you're on Amazon purchasing stuff with that left hand. So, the idea here is to get out of that state of depression as soon as possible. And so there's no honor in staying in a depressed state after you lose someone. Sometimes we begin to feel like, I'm honoring my loved one by staying in a state of grief. Would you want someone to honor you by staying in a state of grief for a month, 6 months, 2 years, 10 years, and they haven't really gone on to live their best life? No, you wouldn't want that. And so the people who've gone before you don't want that either. And so the last thing I'll just say as I close is that, my wife and I, we believe, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. My wife and I believe in keeping a high frequency. That means we're happy, we're excited about life every day. And so, you know, when we wake up in the morning, we check each other's frequency just by saying, good morning, sweetheart. If I say good morning, she says, good morning. I'm like, oh, okay, her frequency is up. But I could say good morning and she say, well, good morning. And then her frequency is down. Well, as her husband, I want her frequency to come up, and she's the same way with me. So let's say that she wakes up at a frequency of a 10, and I wake up at a frequency of a 5. And at a 5, I'm just kind of like, good morning. I don't know. It's just one of those days. I'm just, you know. And so what happens is in our household, if my wife does not effectively pull me up to her 10, in about 2 hours, she's going to be down to my 5. And when she gets down to my 5, she's going to say things like, well, I don't understand what's wrong. Well, why are you walking around like that? It seems like you're moping around. I'm not moping around. I'm just chilling. It's just one of those relaxed days. Well, I don't understand. Why do you have to act like that? Did I do something? You know, and then it just turned into this thing. But if she comes in at a 10 and I come in at a 5, she encourages me to do my self-care. For me, self-care is listening to my gospel music here in my office, and I'll start singing. And as I start singing, she'll close the door, of course, because I can't sing very well. But I'll start singing, and it will begin to raise my energy level or raise my frequency. When I get down and do some sit-ups or push-ups, or go into my gym and do a workout or walk around the neighborhood, right? Those things lift my spirit and begins to lift my frequency. For her, she loves listening to T.D. Jakes, Joe Osteen, or even Bishop Bronner out of Atlanta. She loves listening to those pastors come on. She loved listening to Oprah Winfrey and all of her newest stuff that she talks about, right? So all these things really lift up her spirit. So those are the things I encourage her to do if her frequency is low. So I hope that you all were able to learn something from this presentation. If you would like to reach out to me, I do coaching for 13 to 29-year-old boys or men, and I could coach your son if if your son is really struggling and you're worried about your son being closed off, building walls and staying in his head and in those video games. I can help him to really get into the career that he really wants to get into and help him to achieve what he wants to achieve in life. And it's important to know that your child has someone with some sense in his head. And I've been married for 27 years. To my lovely wife, I have 3 children and 10 grandchildren who I adore all day, every day. And so I want to thank you again for coming on to this call. And if you want to reach out, you can reach me at www.chiefempowerment.com. You can take a look at my books by going to www.chooseclimb.com. Choose, CHOOSE, climb, CLIMB.com. I look forward to hearing from you. Have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.